Greetings, citizens! You're now trapped in the nerd cage with your hosts Mark and Jay. We hope you have a smashing good time.
Hello and welcome. That's right, you're trapped in NerdCage Live. This ain't just a reaction show, but a debate show and a live discussion on everything that makes people like you and I tick. So thank you for joining us. Happy Halloween. Want to get that out there. It's our first Halloween special as far as I'm concerned on NerdCage Live. So please hit that like button and subscribe. And I am your co-host, Jay St. G, coming to you live from Syracuse, New York. And always with me, my man, the warrior from Wakanda, the fiend from Louisville, Mark Withers. What's shaking, boss?
Hey, what's going on, man? Super excited to be here as usual. And yes, today we have another rapid fire episode. For anybody who hasn't listened to us before and heard one of these rapid fire episodes, what we try to do is pack in as many topics as we can inside of 30 minutes. Sometimes we can do that. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we go a little bit long, but we'll see how we do this time. So right off the top, I want to talk about this movie that everybody has been talking about for this past week. It just dropped on Amazon Prime, and that is Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. It has a much longer title than that, but I definitely can't remember it. You and I both watched this over the past couple of days, and we both have our thoughts about it. So I wanted to kind of throw it to you, and I wanted to find out what you thought of it.
Well, let me just say right off the bat that there's a lot of mixed reviews out there. I personally enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't boring to me. It was a fun watch. But to me, this is nowhere near as good as the first one.
Right.
Not even close.
Yeah.
But the commentary's good. It's funny. But I just didn't laugh out loud as hard as I did because the first one was so outrageous. So outrageous that it hurt to laugh. This movie didn't give me that same feeling. It really didn't. But it's fascinating though, because we're in a different world now. We're in COVID. We're approaching a new election, and this movie took full advantage of that. And I'm really glad they did. And that's what made this movie enjoyable, because just seeing Borat's take on everything, and his daughter also gave it gave the character more depth, and it gave the movie itself it gave it more. But again, it just doesn't reach the levels as the first one did. But other than that, it's enjoyable, and I wasn't mad after watching it, because you know what? At the end of the day, it was free on Amazon Prime. I probably would have felt a little bit different if I paid it to see it in the theater. That's just me. What do you got, Mark?
Right. And I have a similar feeling about it. I thought it was okay. That said, I didn't have very high expectations for it. When I heard that this film was being made, that this sequel was being made, my initial thought was, well, how are they going to do that now? Because everybody knows who Sacha Baron Cohen is. Everybody's super familiar with Borat as a character. He would be instantly recognized. And I really like that they address that in the movie, where, when he first gets there, people are actually recognized, hey, Borat, you know what I mean? Yep. And so for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, it's not a huge spoiler, but he uses a series of new disguises in order to sort of get these sort of hidden reactions from people. So a lot of it is really funny, but the funny moments are kind of spaced out pretty far from each other. Yeah. And it kind of makes it so that the film kind of drags a little bit. But on the plus side, the actress that plays his daughter is every bit as crazy as he is. Yes. And super talented and believable. And I was really, really impressed with her. And I thought, particularly in the Giuliani scene that everybody's talking about, that was my main reason for seeing it in the first place. But that scene to me makes the whole movie. And then also the CPAC scene. I won't say too much about that because I don't want to give any spoilers, but those two particular scenes are two to look out for in the film. It's not nearly as good as the first movie, but still very much worth a watch for anybody who's interested.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. This is something we agree on. I mean, pound for pound, we agree on this one here.
Right.
I really don't want to give any spoilers away. I really encourage everyone to watch it. It's every bit as raunchy. I mean, it doesn't have like the nudity that the first one had, but it's still just as raunchy, and all the tropes are there. There's going to be scenes that you may have recognized because some of this stuff was on YouTube before the movie was even announced. So, that being said, it doesn't take away from the movie. It's just, again, it's enjoyable. It's a good it's worth the watch, but just don't level your expectations because it's nowhere near the first one, not even by any stretch. And I really don't think they should do. I don't think they should do a part 3. That's my opinion.
Right, and I concur with that, unless you do a part 3 that's just the daughter and doesn't have Borat in it. But I digress. Yeah. But I kind of agree with what you're saying. They should really just kind of cap it off here. I think that the joke is kind of worn off, a little bit as far as like this brand of humor, particularly with Sacha Baron Cohen, who's like super recognizable now. It's much more difficult for him to pull these things off. But like I said before, it is an enjoyable movie, and we can kind of leave it at that. So moving on to the next topic, we got news today, or not news, but there's a couple of interesting little factoids that are sort of floating around about Justice League Snyder Cut. Mm-hmm. One is that Jared Leto is returning.
Yes.
And before we get to the other one, I wanted to get your feelings on that.
Okay, so if anyone was at our previous live stream, we did talk about it. This is interesting because I feel like just because this is my least favorite Joker doesn't mean I don't like Jared Leto's Joker.
Right.
That being said, I'm glad he's getting a second chance. I feel Zack Snyder will be able to, whatever scenes we see Joker in this movie, I feel like Zack Snyder is going to bring it better than Suicide Squad did. I'll leave it at that. Interesting note, though. This is the first time in history that the same Joker is in another Batman movie.
I am not really that impressed with this news. A lot of people have heard me say before that Jared Leto is my least favorite Joker. He's the least impressive, least believable. But I am willing to see what he brings this time around. He's had time to kind of see what worked, see what didn't work. There's going to be hopefully a little bit more footage to kind of go on, a little bit more screen time for him, so we can see how his version of the Joker is actually developed as opposed to just a couple of out of context scenes. So, I mean, I'm here for it either way. I mean, but I'm not as excited as a lot of people are about it.
Well, here's the thing. There's two things I want to see, and this is me pure speculation here. Okay, don't. I'm not putting my money down. I'm just wondering if they're going to pull this off. One, is this Jared Leto's Joker going to be the one that, again, possibly kills Lois Lane, like we saw in Injustice, and like I said, we kind of saw the breadcrumbs there in the nightmare scene in Batman versus Superman. So I'm wondering if that's why Zack Snyder wants to bring Joker in. Two, excuse me, sorry. Well, I just totally lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
On my second thing here on Joker here. Oh my gosh, give me a moment here. Oh, the Robin, the death of Robin. That's what I want to know. Are we going to get a little bit more backstory on the death of Robin when we saw the Robin suit in the Batcave there? That's what I'm hoping there. I'm hoping that we get more explanation on the death of Robin and possibly the death of Lois Lane at the hands of the Joker. That's what I want to see in this Zack Snyder's Justice League. Will we get it? Who knows? And I also think, another thing I'm thinking too is, I don't know if this was Zack Snyder's thing or Warner Brothers or HBO Max, but this is just a genius way to keep this movie in the public eye. Even though we already got a trailer, but they're keeping the movie in the public eye, and it's creating hype, whether if people are mad about this news or not. This is creating hype for the movie, and it's getting the Justice League HBO Max thing out there even more with this whole Jared Leto Joker attached to this news.
I agree. And I think that is one of the primary reasons why we're getting news like this. Like, we're getting these little bits and pieces because you figure, a deal had to have been in the works prior to this, before, it becoming official. And we haven't really gotten any inkling before now that something was in the works. So the fact that they dropped the Ben Affleck bomb the way that they did, dropped the Keaton bomb the way that they did, dropped this Jared Leto thing. I mean, I think they're making these very smart moves as far as like keeping the attention on the DCEU. Dropping these small bombs like this is just turning everybody's head like, wow, I'm really excited about it now. Wow, I'm even more excited about it now. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. I think this is really smart on Warner Brothers' part to do this, and there's probably a lot more coming. So speaking of that, we also heard that Joe Manganiello may possibly be coming back as Deathstroke in the Snyder Cut. And I wanted to hear what you thought about that.
Now, this one got me juiced up, okay? This I'm excited for because when I first learned, okay, let's say what you want about the Joss Whedon's Justice League, but it was so cool seeing Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke at the end of that post-credit scene. Even though, sadly enough, that was leaked and spoiled like a week or two before the movie came out. But it still got me amped up because I always like Joe Manganiello, because I feel like, yes, he does all the chick roles and the Magic Mikes and this and that, but you know what? He's good as an action star. He was really good in Rampage, and he was really good in this movie called Sabotage with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think he's perfect as Slade Wilson. Right. And I really want to see this version of Deathstroke go, toe-to-toe with Ben Affleck's Batman or what may have you. I mean, I don't know how much capacity that he's in this movie, but the fact that he's in it, I'm all for it. I'm hoping. Listen, I don't know how much screen time he's gonna get or how much he impacts the story moving forward, but I'm hoping this will have some kind of impact where we see him again, whether if it's in another movie or if his own miniseries or whatever. I'm glad that they're making room to do this because I was excited for the casting. I was excited when Ben Affleck said that, hey, this is going to be my villain in my solo movie. So it's all coming together. I'm very excited. Mark, how do you feel?
Okay, you ready for me to let the air out of your tires a little bit?
Go for it.
So I still give this news rumor status because, reading a little bit more into it, what was initially reported was not that he was in talks with anybody. There's no definitive answer about like whether or not Deathstroke is going to be a part of the Snyder Cut. This rumor kind of formed from an event that he was at where a picture was taken with him with the Deathstroke haircut and a goatee. And it was at like a League of Legends event or something where he's wearing headphones and he's got like his fist in the air and he just has the Deathstroke look per se, but there's no mention of him like confirming that he's in the Snyder Cut. There's no talk of him playing Deathstroke at all. This is just a story that kind of snowballed off of one photograph. So until we hear more about it one way or the other, I mean, it's still conjecture. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Now, am I hoping that this indicates that he's gonna be in Justice League? Absolutely. I think that he would make a perfect Deathstroke. I think that the action scenes between him and Affleck would be fantastic. I mean, that was one of the bigger disappointments for me as far as the Ben Affleck version of Batman not being made, was because he was supposed to be the main villain, from what I understand. So if we get an opportunity to even see a taste of that, I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. And here's something we can both agree on. I think the Zack Snyder Justice League news is far from over. I think we're going to get more news in the coming weeks and the coming months leading up to the movie. And I think we're all going to be, I think one way or another, we're all going to be in for some surprises. And I think this is just the beginning.
I agree. There's a long road to when this is finally going to be released to when we finally see it. I think that there's many more bombs that are going to be dropped. A lot of castings, a lot of interesting new news that's going to come out that we're not expecting, that it's going to get us extra hype for this. So I'm all in for it.
All right, so rapid fire. So now we're hearing news, and this has been released by several outlets, that we've known for a while that Creed 3 was inevitable. And now we're hearing that Michael B. Jordan is going to be possibly directing and starring in Creed 3, which excites me because we got the news that he's producing Static Shock. I really think Michael B. Jordan has talent outside of acting, so I have full faith that we're going to be I have full faith that he'd do well in directing and starring in Creed 3. I cannot wait to hear more on this. So, Mark, what's your take on that?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Michael B. Jordan. I mean, I like almost everything that he's done. To hear that he's kind of like stepping out of this acting role, and in addition to doing that, like he's taken on projects, as an executive producer. He started, Outlier Society, and he's doing a lot to kind of flesh out like Black superheroes and kind of create this new Black superhero universe. I'm really all in for that. As far as directing the next Creed movie, I'm still a little bit on the fence. Not that he is not capable of directing a good film, but this would be his directorial debut. And, to take on such a high profile IP as your first project is a little bit ambitious, I think. I'm not saying that he can't pull it off, but we've seen, historically, great producers, great actors, try to do the same thing, and then the project kind of falls apart because they're going to make the first time director mistakes. I mean, X-Men Dark Phoenix is a good example. You had like Simon Kinberg, who's a brilliant producer, writer, super involved with the X-Men franchise from the beginning, helped develop some really great storylines within that franchise. He was handed the keys to Dark Phoenix, having never directed anything before, and we all saw the result of that. So David Blade 3 with David S. Goyer. Right, exactly. So you know what I mean, and that's no shade on them as directors. It's just one of those things that if you don't have the experience, you're going to make certain mistakes, and those mistakes are forever because now that's been released, people see it, and they're going to judge your work from that. So I think that this is a little bit too big of an IP for him to do as his first outing. But that said, I mean, for all we know, he could be, the next Spielberg, or he could be the next Ryan Coogler, or the next Ava DuVernay. We just don't know yet. So either way, I'm in for it because I love the Creed franchise. Yes. And I've been waiting for Creed 3 since, since Creed 2 finished. So
yeah. Well, my last take on it before we move on to our last topic is I feel that the difference between what you just mentioned between X-Men and stuff, I feel like this time it's a different situation though. It's a better studio with better people around him. I think Michael B. Jordan is set up for more success than what you just the ones that you just mentioned. That's my opinion. So I feel like, you know what, let's see where this goes. I have a pretty good feeling about it.
Yeah, and you make a really good point there. I think that if you're surrounded by people who really know what they're doing, and you're open and you're willing to listen and learn from those people, then the outcome can be really great. I think The Mandalorian is like a good example of that, where Dave Filoni had really only done, more animated stuff. He hadn't really directed anything live action, and he was totally humble about it and willing to listen to people like Jon Favreau and people that really knew their way around making a film and making a TV series. And so the result was you got a really great TV series. And so if he follows that type of a path, I think that we can get a really good Creed 3 movie. So time will tell. We'll see.
Absolutely. So to wrap up this rapid fire episode, nothing set confirmed, but we feel that it's more likely than not. No Time to Die is being shopped to streaming services right now. Mark, your take?
So I looked at Deadline earlier this morning, and I found that yesterday that story had been somewhat debunked. So,
okay.
So what actually happened was back in September when they made the decision to sort of move the date, when they made the decision to change the release date, when all this stuff was happening with all these other high profile films, they decided to have some talks with Netflix, with Amazon, with a couple of other streaming services to see if anybody would be interested in paying the 1 year license for it to go straight to PVOD. And nobody at that time was willing to pay the amount that they were asking for a 1 year license. And so they basically, I guess they brought it up to Barbara Broccoli, who's like the main owner of the franchise. And she was just like, absolutely not. I don't want it to go to streaming anyways, because it's a potential $1 billion film.
Yeah.
And, we all know that the money is just not there in streaming. So there's no like definitive plans as of today for it to go to streaming. I think this was something that was kind of played with a while back, and then they discovered what the potential results were going to be, and they just decided no way on it.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I want to see this movie and I want to see it in theaters. But if it goes to streaming, I'm definitely not going to cry about it. And I can understand because, again, we don't know when theaters, whenever they decide to reopen fully. By the way, New York State, it's 25% now. 25% of theaters are clear to open.
Right.
That being said, we don't know how many people are going to flock back to the theaters, especially even for Bond. I mean, we saw what happened with Tenet, so I see both sides of it. So, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I can't picture this. I can't picture this Bond movie of all movies. You're talking, it's James Bond. Like, this is like a franchise that spans decades. The hype has been for this movie. This hype behind this movie has been going on for like the last 2 years now. So to see it come to a streaming services would just feel so underwhelming. And the Bond movies, to me, that's a theater experience, right? Going around the world and seeing all the stunt work and everything. And it would just, it's just tough, man. I mean, that movie was just all these movies were put in a bad spot, but this one more than others because of the cost of making it and the money that it could potentially bring in. So we're just gonna have to wait and see how it goes. And, once we get official word, trust me, we're gonna jump on it and we will talk about it.
Absolutely we will. I mean, this is a movie that, like you said, I mean, it costs something like $250 million to make. Yeah. And in addition to that $250 million, it's cost somewhere between 30 and 50 million because of having to like move the dates around and change the marketing and to do all of this stuff, also probably interest fees as far as the financing of this film. So yeah, they're threading a very fine needle as far as what to do with this movie. Do they shelve it for another year in an already packed release schedule for 2021, or do they cut their losses and try to try to release it and just take their lumps and just sort of say, yeah, we're going to lose money, but at least it's out there and we can kind of go from there. It's a tough call. I don't envy them at all with that.
On top of that, one more thing I want to mention is, the other thing too is this is Bond. We're gonna get another movie eventually, whether if it's with Daniel Craig, which Daniel Craig says he's done. I don't blame him. I don't want him to go, but I'm, like every Bond fan, we all move on. We have to, whether we like it or not. But here's the thing, though. There is going to be a sequel to this movie, whether if it's going to be with Daniel Craig or a new Bond.
Right.
And the thing is, they don't want to, you can't kill the momentum. This movie has to bring in money because we want to see more Bond films regardless. So I would hate to see Sony lose out on I would hate to see the Bond franchise end like that. I hope it does. I hope that does not happen. But this is just saying that this is like a movie that's coming out that we know there's going to be more to come.
Right. I was thinking about the position that studios like Warner Brothers or Disney are in. Where they're in a little bit better position than the studio that deals with Bond. So. They have the option of releasing on their own streaming platforms, using that as a loss leader to drive memberships to those streaming platforms.
Yeah. So
if Bond was a part of something like that, you could see maybe we just release this as like a 4-part miniseries, like Justice League, or do something like that to sort of try to recoup some of the money lost. But again, I mean, that's almost no different than if you just did a PVOD experience and charged $30 a pop for it. You're definitely not going to make the money back that was spent, let alone make that potential $1 billion return that you were expecting from theaters. So I don't know. It's a very tough position. It's a very tough call.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna hear, we still got Wonder Woman 84, Godzilla vs. Kong, Dune. There's so many movies to count. I mean, we already saw that Soul's going straight to streaming, that was another thing. Soul was a movie that was going against Bond, same weekend, and that's going straight to streaming. So
right,
like I said, there's a plethora of movies coming out. We're just gonna wait and see, and hopefully, when we all get through this. It's just a matter of how the movie theaters and the studios respond. So fingers crossed that, everything will shape up to be okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. So
so we got through our topics. How well did we do on time, I wonder? Did we make that 30?
Less than 30. We're good.
Awesome.
All right. So that being said, before we go, we ask you to pretty please like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and spread the shit like Silpha Soda USA. From Louisville to Syracuse, and to all of our friends and fans around the world at NerdCage Live, enjoy life, stay safe, happy Halloween, and good night.
Sayonara.
Ooh, trying to get out of the NerdCage, are ya? Well, before you go, hit that subscribe button. And if you're really intrigued, ring that bell. Thank you for dropping by. Until next time, tell everyone you know about NerdCage Live!